Hi folks, it's Ela, and I'm going to demonstrate some different brush stroke techniques for all of you. I'm using just some cheap paper. You don't have to use any expensive paper to do this. You can use junk mail, whatever you have. It's just a matter of just getting used to holding a brush in a particular way and getting in a rhythm. It's kind of meditative when you do this for a while. It's a lot of fun, actually. What we're doing is different than, when I draw a shape with a brush and I color it in, right? This is what I do most of the time when I paint, right? Just kind of holding it like a pencil at an angle. Instead, I'm going to be holding my brush perpendicular to the paper. So what do I mean? So if I was to do this on the side, like if you were sticking your head over the side of the table and just looking across, here's my paper, here's my brush. See how it's kind of at a right angle? I'm going to be holding my brush close to a right angle. So I'm going straight down. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. See how I'm pointing downward. This is similar to how they do calligraphy in traditional Chinese, Japanese, Korean painting traditions. I am not trained in those traditions. My apologies if you do know more about those traditions or have practiced those techniques. I'm just showing you my approximation. But we're going to do some brush control right here, doing something very similar. So I have a round brush. You can see how it comes to a nice point. I'm using an 8. You could use a 10 or a 12, but you want to make sure it comes to a nice point. That's the important thing for these first few different techniques. I'm going to use my pinky as an anchor. I'm touching my paper with my pinky, and that helps control how much pressure I'm putting on my brush. So there's my pinky on the paper. Here's my brush pointing downward. I'm going to make a very thin line. So I'm just barely touching the paper, and I'm bending my elbow and my shoulder as I go. Let's do a faster one. It's easier to do it faster than slower. So you'll notice that my wrist is not moving. I'm not doing this, right? All of my motion is my elbow and my shoulder. I'm literally bending my elbow and my shoulder, and I'm moving kind of like a hinge. So see if you can pull your arm back and forth, keeping your wrist still. I hope you can see this well enough to understand what I'm talking. So you're going to do this a bunch of times. And some of your lines are going to be wobbly. The paint may not be smooth all the way through. But we're just going to keep practicing this over and over again. Once you've made a few really skinny lines, what happens if instead of doing a very light pressure, you do a very heavy pressure? What if you press way down and then do a pull? This is the same brush, but I'm getting a really different kind of line. So your brush can do all sorts of different kinds of lines. You can do thin lines. You can do thick lines. I think thick lines are a little bit easier because you're not balancing it so much. And of course, you can do every line in between as well. What if I do a medium pressure in between the two? There we go. We got one in between. So we've got thick lines, we've got thin lines. What if we do a line that goes back and forth between thick and thin? This is another technique that I'm borrowing from calligraphy traditions. You can start with a very thin stroke, and I'm pulling just a tiny bit towards me, and then I can push down, and then pulling towards me, I can pull back up again. Isn't that kind of cool looking? You might get some puddling on there, but that's okay. Thin, thick, thin. And I'm moving my hand towards me the whole time, very slowly. And I can watch my brush and see what kind of mark am I making as I go, so I can develop control. It looks kind of like a leaf, or it could be a flower petal. try this a few times. Up, down, up. Up, down, up. Up, down, up. You can make them long, you can make them really short. I think the short ones are a little trickier, but you can, there's a little one. So you're starting light, you're pressing down, and you're pulling up again. What if you decide to do a bunch of these, but don't lift your brush up completely? So I'm up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. It's kind of cool. So that's another cool thing you can do. You can see how you can play with this for a really long time. And you could layer them, you could make a picture out of it, you could cut it up and turn it into a collage. There's lots of cool things you can do with this. All right, now I'm going to show you something with a different kind of brush. This is a 1-inch wide flat brush. And I'm going to, I can make a mark with it, just like this brush. If you really want a wide mark, you can just go ahead and make a super wide mark. But you can also hold the brush in a different angle. So here we are, we've changed it, we've moved it 90 degrees. I can make a really thin line. I can also make cute little vertical marks. This would be good for painting grass or just creating some interesting texture. Make a little flower with it or a star. You can make little easy, quick squares. So very versatile, can do a lot of different things. It's not just limited to coloring in large areas. A little flying white in there, that's kind of fun. So what else can this brush do? Trying to get my brush really clean and also fairly wet, and I'm gonna dip one corner into my paint. It's got a really messy palette here. This is paint on this palette. Just one corner here, so you can see how the paint is on this side. I got it on my fingers, but it's not on this side. This side is clean. I'm trying to keep this side clean. What happens? Let me show you. Isn't that cool? You can take one corner, rub it around, it's a much lighter one. I could also put one corner in one color and one corner in another color and get two colors in the same stroke. If I get these skid marks, it means that my brush is drying out, so make sure that my brush is nice and wet when I'm dipping it in the colors. There we go. So we're getting some wet into wet within a single stroke. It's a lot of fun. Another thing I recommend is that you try practicing just making little dots. Seeing what kind of marks you can get out of your brush. One of the reasons why I like practicing these little dots and blobs is that if I want to make a bush or a tree, I think about where are the little shadows within the foliage. Is probably going to be more towards the bottom because the sun is coming from above, but I'll just make a bunch of little blobs, and some will connect and some will be more independent, especially towards the top, but it creates that three-dimensional quality, making those blobs, creating that illusion that there's deep parts of that bush that aren't gonna be exposed to the sun. I hope you find this helpful, and I hope you try out these exercises at home.